In business today, three things to know. First, at the finish line for the markets, we head into the Christmas break with another record for the Dow and S&P. Then, the GOP gets ready to open its holiday presents. Congress, what to expect from Republicans in the new year. And wine on a dime, toasting the holidays with quality wine without the high price tag. Arise Exchange starts now. Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Schmertz. Santa Claus came to Wall Street, bringing with it a sack of records for the Dow and S&P 500. Ahead of the Christmas holiday, stocks rallied, though on light volume. Here are the final numbers. The Dow closed up just 6 points to 18,030. That's a record. The S&P 500 was in record territory all day, though ended the day down fractionally, and the Nasdaq did finish up. Some of the top stocks we're watching today. Sears e-commerce chief has resigned after the company's 10th straight quarter of losses. Sears is expected to name a replacement before he officially leaves the post on February 6. Sears did close down 36 cents. Coca-Cola planning to cut up to 2,000 jobs around the globe as part of a $3 billion cost-cutting initiative. Coke is trying to downsize after posting a 14% drop in profit last quarter. Coca-Cola closing down a couple cents. American Airlines, though, planning to spread the wealth around. The airline says strong profits and dropping oil prices mean flight attendants can get raises of up to 14%. AAL stock up $1.22. And taking a look at commodities, gold down and oil down to $55.50 a barrel. Jobless claims dropped 9,000 for the week ending December 20th. That's the fourth straight week of declines. Peter Cardillo, chief market economist from Rockwell Global Capital, is on the phone to talk about the markets before the holiday. Peter, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you.
The last few days, how would you characterize this sort of Santa Claus rally?
Well, it's been an exciting year, and certainly, the past few days we've seen both the Dow and the S&P reach new record highs. Dow 18,000 plus now. Obviously, it continues to run up on good fundamentals, and it's all about the fundamentals, not only the stock market fundamentals, but the economy's fundamentals, and of course they go hand in hand. And so we're looking at an economy that's expanding. It's been quite an exciting year for the economy at that. It looks as though we're probably going to see growth in 2014 around 3.25%, which was better than anticipated. And the key is that there is no inflation, and that the Fed is going to probably look to raise rates sometime in 2015, most likely in the second or third quarter of the new year.
I want to ask you, because you say the market's moving up on fundamentals, both the economic fundamentals and company fundamentals, but how much of the Fed is playing a role here in keeping interest rates low?
Well, I think, the Fed has made it clear that they're going to be patient. Now, if we continue to see growth like this that we saw in the third quarter spill into the fourth quarter and into the first quarter, then I think that patience is probably going to be tempered down somewhat, and we'll probably see rates move up a little sooner than anticipated. But the Fed obviously is concerned about what's happening in the global market, certainly what's happening in Russia, certainly what's happening in Euroland. And so as a result of that, because there is an absence of inflation, and of course, we have this extra dividend now of lower oil prices, the threat of inflation certainly is non-existing. And so they might be able to say, well, even if growth is averaging at 3 or 3.5%, we can wait, until June or perhaps July to begin to normalize rates.
We kept hearing all year about the strengthening dollar and how the greenback getting stronger was going to really impact the earnings of international companies. Is that what we found?
Not really. I mean, so far it hasn't. Now, if the greenback certainly were to get even stronger from these levels, let's say measured by the dollar index, move around towards that 95 par level, then that could be a problem. But, I think throughout the years, a lot of corporations have now, and obviously referring to the multinational corporations, have begun to fine-tune their hedges. And so the drastic consequences of an overly strong dollar, I think, is somewhat limited. That's not to say that it won't impact earnings of certain companies. Certainly it will, but I think on a less dramatic scale.
Peter, one final question. We have about 30 seconds. The collapse of oil prices, how is that going to long-term affect the equity markets over the next 6 months, do you think?
Well, I think if we don't go any lower and we begin, and I believe we're probably beginning to stabilize, if we hang around the $60, $70 level, I think it's a blessing from above. It helps corporations, it helps the bottom lines, and it certainly helps the consumer.
Okay, Peter Cardillo, thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
And coming up, we are going to talk about oil and the impact it had on 2014. Stay with us.
Unrest continues in Ferguson, Missouri. Exactly what happened to Michael Brown Jr.'s memorial. The NFL fallout continues. Why does this video change the game? President Barack Obama met with congressional leaders today.
He does not need congressional approval to carry out the strikes.
The only language understood by killers like this is the language of force.
Do I want to have a draft? No, because I don't want to have war.
Hello and welcome to Arise America. I'm Debbie Turner-Bell.
Informative. Wall Street, more treats than tricks for Investors Friday as the markets closed out the week at record highs. Compelling. China is the world's largest economy. Of course, the numbers are a little bit milked. If you actually believed that drinking Red Bull would give you wings, you're about to collect $10.
Tim Cook coming out as gay, being in the forefront, it shows that there's diversity in leadership.
All business. It was the best day for the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ all year. Entertaining money daily.
We're in a slow growth but not a no growth economy.
Arise Exchange.
I think that people in America do care about what happens throughout the world.
Global warming is probably something that has to be addressed sooner rather than later.
From Somalia, the genocide there, and that's something people don't know about. They have no idea the brevity of that situation.
First thing I think about when I think of Africa is like war and famine and disease.
And right now with the tsunami that happened or the earthquakes in, Japan, we always look out for other people.
Arise News, every culture, every angle.
Welcome back to Exchange Rewind, where we're looking back at 2014. Oil prices went on a heck of a ride this year. Oil opened the year around $93 a barrel. It hit nearly $105 over the summer, and then, well, the wheels came off. It has been on a steady slide since, closing as low as $55. Sean Brodrick is an analyst with InvestmentU.com and the Oxford Club, and he joins us now by phone. Sean, thank you for joining us here on Arise Exchange.
Thank you very much for having me.
Boy, did this slide in oil just catch everyone off by surprise? Anyone predict this?
Well, certainly at the very start of the year, no. But as things went on, we saw more and more production coming from North America. We saw Iraq ramping up its production. We saw Libya coming back online. Then people started to, say, you know what? We're really going to have a surplus of oil. Then we had to change our bets in the market.
So the question is this a supply problem or is this a world economy problem? Because that's where really the argument is.
Right. That's an argument that I'm having with a lot of people. Some people think that the wheels are coming off the global economy. I strongly disagree. This is a case where we have new tech that has changed the game in how much oil is supplied, and so we are seeing surging supply in North America, in Africa, in even the Middle East. We're seeing more supply come on.
Yeah,
so that's really changing the game.
You mentioned new tech, and I guess we're talking about fracking to some extent. That is clearly a game changer, right? It has come on in huge numbers and really driven the price down.
Yes, but also people really don't understand the whole fracking technology improves all the time. It becomes cheaper and cheaper to frack. Plus, there's new technology coming on, like, say, nanotechnology, that again will make things cheaper. So we're going to have this play out over the course of the next year. My forecast is we'll see lower oil prices through at least the middle of the year. Around the middle of the year, I expect I'll have to reassess. We are starting to see new projects canceled. Nobody's canceling existing production. And even if new projects do not come on, U.S. oil production is expected to rise through next year.
Yeah, is there, that's a good question, because some people have said that with the substantial drop in oil, now the U.S. can't support the drilling that it's doing here. Do you buy that?
In certain places, yes. In fact, we are seeing projects canceled up in Alaska. We are seeing projects canceled in, for example, the Tuscaloosa Marine Shale. Projects are also canceled there. However, I've been reading some stuff because one of the projects I thought would be canceled would be up in, say, the oil sands up in Canada. But I've been reading about the lifting costs they have there, and they're a lot cheaper than you might think. So I think everyone's playing this game of chicken, waiting for the other guy really to, blink first. People expect at, some point, Saudi Arabia will have to cut. They have more costs than anybody. They aren't going to cut. They're going to wait for us to cut.
Yeah, they said today they don't mind if oil goes down to $20 a barrel, and that's the game of chicken, because it's not so much which country may cut production first, but here in the U.S. it really comes down to which company might cut, correct?
Right. That is a very good point, because it is all very different depending on what oil field you're in. Some have much higher costs. So what you should concentrate on are those companies that have A, low debt, it's very important, B, a cash flow, and C, low lifting costs. Those companies are really being beaten down right now. They're all being thrown in the trash, right? But there are some real bargains there that longer term should do very well.
Yeah, and for the overall U.S. economy, how much did the low oil prices sort of factor into that pop we saw in the GDP?
I think that really factored a lot. People do not want to give people do not want to give the current administration any credit, but they've really stood out of the way and let things happen in the whole oil industry. And we saw exports of oil fuel and stuff like that zoom. We've seen industries around the U.S. that use oil as an input really take off. We have seen the consumer have much more money in their pockets. This is a thing that low oil is really helping. And so, again, at least through the first half of next year, things could be pretty good.
Okay, Sean Brodrick, an analyst with InvestmentU.com. Have a good new year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
The winds of political change swept through Washington this fall when Republicans took control of Congress. Come the new year, the GOP will have large majorities in both the Senate and the House, and they vow to roll back regulations they say are job killers. So how will the president respond? John Burns is a Rise News legal correspondent, joins us once again from Washington, D.C. Good to see you 2 days in a row.
Great to see you too, Andrew.
Always welcome on the program. So
all right.
in your thoughts, how much did you think the economic issues played a role here in the Republicans winning Congress? Or is it simply a case where the Democrats kind of, worn out their welcome?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think economic dissatisfaction definitely played a role in the Republicans winning. In November, you look at some Democrats in the South and some Democrats in some of the West states, some Midwest states. I mean, they were really anxious and uncertain about about the economic recovery. And so that definitely played a role and possibly compelled them to vote differently.
So, legal issues and regulatory issues really obviously are intertwined. So it's kind of appropriate to ask you the question about whether you think the regulatory environment in 2014 is going to start to swing, or was it balanced appropriately?
I think the regulatory environment in 2014 just intensified even more based upon you look at what happened before in the previous years in response to some of the foul play in the financial sector markets. I think that just continued to intensify, and you saw more regulation in terms of trying to curb abuse and trying to add more transparency. So I think that's going to continue to grow well into 2015.
So it's really interesting to me. Elizabeth Warren, senator from Massachusetts, made an absolutely impassioned speech on the Senate floor after the election, where she said the regulations have not gone far enough when it comes to things like Dodd-Frank, which, the financial industry absolutely hates. Small businesses criticize it for really hurting lending. Do you think the momentum, despite the Republicans winning, may be on the progressive side on some of these issues?
You know, it's hard to tell at this juncture. I think if you listen and talk to some of these CEOs, they're saying they're spending more time talking to political and regulatory and government officials than they ever had in the past. And I think even for like the highly regulated industries, I mean, they're having to change their whole business models to conform to some of these regulations. So based upon the global pace of what I've seen of regulatory reform, it's only going to accelerate. So I don't think it's going to ultimately change too drastically.
You know, I'll tell you where the jobs are. They're in the compliance departments of many of these companies.
Absolutely. They're spending and losing so much money trying to comply and trying to conform their internal policies to meet the threshold requirements of these regulations.
What do you talk to us a little bit about the business initiatives from the president this past year?
I think the President Obama, I think he was really trying to really target small business growth. I think he did some initiatives in terms of providing more lending capabilities to small businesses and also some more capabilities for them to hire and grow their workforce a lot quicker, too. And then they also actually did some work and initiatives with respect to minority-owned businesses as well.
And when you look at the Republicans, you know, they're going to make the case that the regulatory environment is killing small businesses. What kind of sort of wind will they have at their backs going into the next year? And will this possibly let the president, you know, move forward on some of the issues that he hasn't been able to move forward with Democrats?
I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword because you're going into an election year in 2016, so no party is going to step out of turn because you have to remember our electorate is really based upon what happened most recently. So they're going to judge any type of bad act, and they're going to ultimately punish the party who committed that bad act. So I think both the Democrats and Republicans are going to move forward very cautiously. Okay, John Burns, Arise News legal correspondent from Washington, D.C. Have a good New Year. Thank you, Andrew. You too. Ahead, 3 of our favorite people of the year. You're watching Arise, Exchange, Rewind. Stay with us.
There is a reason Africa is called the new frontier. What was once potential is now an opportunity ready to be seized. Once revered for our resources, today's wealth lies in our people. People who build the cities that shape the future. People who know an idea in one place means business in another. A generation for whom technology means there are no borders, no boundaries. We are the new lions in a brave new world, kings of the urban jungle. And there's a bank that puts the world in our pocket and the future in our hands. UBA, Africa's global bank.
Apple unveiled new products today. Did it meet expectations?
Apple stock is up 20%.
The White House says it has proper measures to contain the spread of Ebola. This seems to be, in some ways, exploding. What are officials saying?
We remain focused on working with our partners on the ground to stop the epidemic.
Enhanced measures have been put in place in Africa and the United States.
This is hitting home in a very real way, and I think, we need to be concerned.
Hello and welcome to Arise America. I'm Debbie Turner-Bell.
I think news does make people put things in black and white terms just so that they have a dividing line between what their viewers like and dislike.
When they see a person of color, they either think that they're not going to do anything, they're either on drugs or they got pregnant at an early age, and I just want to say that that's not true.
It tends to reflect more the interests of the upper income people and the upper income interests.
Arise News, every culture, every angle.
Welcome back to Exchange Rewind. There are so many people who did so many bad things this year that it was tough for us to name our top 3 favorite people of the day for the year. But these are our choices. He's Toronto Mayor Rob Ford, allegedly caught on camera smoking crack. You can call him the Canadian version of Marion Barry, the Washington, D.C. mayor, who was also caught smoking crack on camera back in 1990. Toronto's police chief today says they have recovered video from the computer hard drive that belonged to Ford's former friend, driver, and apparently fellow crackhead. The police chief said the video is, quote, consistent with earlier reports of the mayor's crack use, but that it was insufficient to press charges against Ford. When reporters asked the mayor this morning about the video, he yelled at them to get off his lawn. Ford has vowed to stay in office, and, if it's any consolation, Marion Barry was re-elected mayor after his crack conviction. So, for proving that Toronto is about more than maple leaves, Mayor Rob Ford is our favorite person of the day. Time now for our favorite person of the day, when we pick one person who grabbed our attention and not for the right reasons. Today we have a story of why you may not want to win the Employee of the Month award at your business, especially if you work at a Florida Walmart. When Willie Mitchell heard that his colleague won the Employee of the Month award at a Deerfield, Florida Walmart, he didn't take it too well, thinking that maybe he should have won it. So he did what any reasonable sore loser might do. He shot up the woman's car. Mitchell allegedly drove up to the employee's car, rolled down his window, and reportedly opened fire. The car was empty at the time. No one was hurt. Broward County Police say when the award was announced, Mitchell apparently began arguing with the victim and allegedly yelled, quote, "I'm going to show you." And so he did. The award doesn't actually carry any prize, just a nice announcement that you won it. The prize for shooting up your coworker's car, on the other hand, possibly years in jail. So here's a tip for all employees. Firing shots at your coworker's car probably disqualifies you from winning the Employee of the Month award. And so Willie Mitchell may not be Employee of the Month, but he is our favorite person of the day. Time now for our favorite person of the day, when we pick one person who grabbed our attention and not for the right reasons. Now, we've all made the embarrassing mistake of pocket or butt dialing someone, but mother and son criminal masterminds from Florida managed to butt dial their way right to jail. 55-year-old Donna Nope and her 32-year-old son Jason were allegedly going over plans to make crystal meth when one of them butt dialed 911. Oops. The dispatcher at the precinct listened to the three allegedly go over how to make and sell meth for nearly half an hour. Walter White, these two are certainly not. Police traced the call to the backyard where the plans were being hatched. When the cops arrived, surprise, they discovered a working meth lab. Well, the rocket scientists of mom and her son and a third partner were holed away, along with all the torches and tubes they allegedly used to make the meth. The three face a variety of drug charges and probably a high cell phone bill, 30 minutes. So for talking about their plans to make illegal drugs without even putting the lock on their phone, mother and son, meth makers Donna and Jason Nope, are our favorite people of the day. And on New Year's Eve, we will name our favorite person of the year, and you could help us pick that person. Go to our Facebook page to vote. Coming up, Xchange Rewind. We'll be right back. You're watching Arise News. Stay with us.
The search continues for the more than 200 abducted schoolgirls.
Unquestionably, this is a Nigerian problem.
President Barack Obama stopped short of visiting the border. Why can't Washington get anything done when it comes to immigration reform?
You got to come up with a solution to it, and no one has a real solution.
Does this further terrorize people, make them more afraid, or is this making people angry? Hello and welcome to Arise America. I'm Debbie Turner-Bell.
Mainstream news has covered all of the issues of the world, which are like this, through a very narrow lens. And at Arise News, we do things different. We cover every culture, every angle. Our mission is to go to these places, to these communities, whether they're in Africa, whether they're in Europe, Asia, the United States, the Caribbean. And we're going to find these stories, and we're going to tell them to our audience. Stories that they probably never heard of before, and stories that they'll find interesting and engaging.
Global. It's Monday, so it must be time for a new round of sanctions against Russia.
Nigeria is open for business, and you are getting a handle on this situation.
Compelling. Time for liquid lunch, things that make us want to drink. Could she have been separated at birth from, say, Grimace? All business.
Money's coming out of these countries, and that flow is part of what's driving the equity markets.
Entertaining money daily.
It's about reimagining.
Arise Exchange.
One of the great things about Arise Entertainment 360 is we have this Arise to Your Health segment, which really focuses on the holistic approach of being healthy. So we do everything from working out to juicing to getting in shape by doing fun exercises like bouncing on a trampoline or wearing these bouncy boots on our feet when we're jumping all over the set. We've done karate, we've danced the weight off, we've done just about everything. And of course, I love when we eat on set, but we do it in a very healthy and clean way.
The holiday season is typically the best for wine sales, and our next guest says you don't have to buy an expensive wine to get a good one. Jennifer Simonetti Bryant is a partner at The Wine Ring, an online company where consumers taste and rate different wines. We spoke with her earlier. Jennifer, there are some great deals on wines this year.
Yes, absolutely, and from some unusual places. Like, for example, here we have an Alvarinho. Alvarinho is Albarino, but that a lot of people know from Spain, but it's for a delicate white wine that people really like. It's a little floral, a little fresh, goes great with the seafood, so if your family's Italian, like mine is.
Do people eat a lot of fish and seafood over the holidays?
Yeah,
Is
well,
it over
Night
Christmas,
of a Thousand Fishes is for Christmas Eve, yeah. So
okay, that makes
one's a
sense.
good one. And that's about $11 a bottle, so
Okay,
you're
that's a
not
great deal.
breaking the bank there. And then one of the most underrated wines, I feel, in France is Beaujolais. Now, this is a cru of Beaujolais. This is the one that I poured. I poured a couple of glasses. And this is probably, if you think of wine in terms of skim milk, whole milk, and heavy cream, this is probably at between skim milk and whole milk. So it's kind of in that middle area, but it really is very, very high quality.
When you talk about red wines and sort of the heavy cream, are you talking in boldness?
I'm talking not only in terms of boldness of flavor, I'm talking actually really about weight. Because if you can figure out, most people know they can tell the difference between heavy cream and skim milk on their palate because of the weight of it. And wine is exactly the same way. So like Cabernet Sauvignon, heavy cream. Pinot Noir, skim milk.
Skim milk, okay. What are people drinking these days?
What people are drinking these days, Chardonnay, Cabernet, Sauvignon Blanc, and lots of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. And they're drinking lots of Malbec as well. And we're seeing a little bit of a drop back in terms of Australian wines, unfortunately.
And Shiraz, for example.
And Shiraz, yeah.
And why is that? Is it the grape, or is it just the taste of changing?
No, I actually think it has more to do with Treasury Wine and Estates. It has to do with just some particular companies. They're not doing as well in the United States.
I'm wondering, does currency fluctuations affect wine with a strengthening dollar, for example? Do you see foreign wines becoming more affordable?
Yeah, we do see some wines becoming more affordable. And right now, because the economy is doing much better.
People are drinking more wine?
People are drinking more wine. Actually, it's one of those products that's inelastic. You know, the economy's doing bad, people are drinking. And the economy's doing well,
maybe
people
less
drink.
spirits and more wine in that case.
True.
So overall, how do you see the wine business for the past year or so? Is this an industry that tends to be relatively flat?
Well, it's actually increased over the last 2 decades, little by little. Even in 2012, when we had Hurricane Sandy, and that's when champagne sales went down, but overall wine sales went up in that time.
And you see that trend continuing?
Absolutely, yeah. We are the #1 consuming nation of wine in the world.
Are people becoming more educated? Meaning, are the better wines, not just the higher priced ones?
Right.
So you go into a wine store and you say, get me the most expensive one because it must be good. That's not an educated consumer necessarily.
There is absolutely more education on wine than there ever has been. And now we also see there's like 900 apps out there about wine and getting people to choose things and understanding wine a bit more.
So now you're going to go to a bunch of parties, Christmas parties.
Oh, yeah.
You are under a lot of pressure to bring good wine, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I am the wine lady. I'm the palate cleanser of the family. So
people ask you all sorts of questions of what
they do.
You
I'm on
always have
speed
to bring
dial.
your business with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Jennifer. Merry Christmas. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The markets are closed on Christmas, so we will debut our Exchange Rewind program. We'll look back at the hits and misses of 2014. Let's take a look at how the markets finished this Christmas Eve. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, that's a record to 18,030.27. S&P 500 flirting with record territory all day and finally finishing slightly in the red. I'm Andrew Schmertz. Thanks for watching. Merry Christmas, everyone.